On Business Incorporated today, a look at Nigeria's economy as it celebrates its 62nd independence anniversary. In South Africa, food prices continue to surge. And for the continent, Africa Emissions Trading Platform is now open. Good afternoon and welcome to Business Incorporated. To our viewers in Nigeria or Nigerians around the world, happy independence to you as we celebrate 62 years of independence. And on that note, let's start with what's going on at the NGX. It is closed today, obviously, because it's a public holiday. But on Friday, it closed positive. They are unchanged today, of course, but positive 0.12% on Friday. In South Africa, it's in the red, 0.10% at intraday. And in Egypt, Northern Africa, it's also in the red, a red day for markets in Africa, 0.07%. While Kenya closed Friday's trading almost 0.5% in the red, 0.47%. But it's flipped for the Middle East market, as we see that in Dubai, it's down 0.58%, but that's just about it because we see there Abu Dhabi is up 0.13%. And moving to other parts, Saudi Arabia is up also, as well as the Qatar is up, as well as Saudi Arabia. In fact, Saudi Arabia is up almost 1% at intraday. A good one for Middle East market, but not so good for Africa. Let's go to Europe now and see what's happening. It's a public holiday there too. Unity Day in Germany. Well, we say congratulations to Chris, but we still have business to do. The International Energy Agency is calling on the European Union citizens to make savings in gas consumption to avoid empty storage facilities and the risk of supply disruptions this winter. The advice comes as gas deliveries from Russia have halted and 2 underwater gas pipelines have been damaged in what European experts call sabotage. Well, we have joining us now, in spite of the holiday, Chris Koba. Now, hi, Chris. Happy Unity Day to you. But how much are people in Europe able to save or willing to save, according to what the IEA is asking for?
Demand must be reduced by 9 to 13% compared to the average of the past 5 years. The IEA says for gas stocks to be kept at an adequate level until the end of the heating season. And now, with a low inflow of liquefied natural gas, this would ensure that gas storage facilities remain filled at a level of 25 to 30%. Without reduced gas consumption, and in the event of a complete Russian supply freeze from November, storage levels could drop to just under 5% if at the same time only little LNG is delivered to the EU. Now, this would increase the risk of supply disruptions in the event of a late cold snap. The German government has set a goal for the country to use 20% less gas this heating season compared to the last. However, Germany's Federal Network Agency warned that just last week, consumption was actually up 14% compared to 1 year ago. Russia's invasion of Ukraine and sharp reductions in natural gas supplies to Europe are causing significant harm to consumers, businesses, and entire economies, the IEA's director says, adding that all the signs pointed to markets remaining very tight well into next year. The current gas crisis is also creating long-term uncertainty, according to the IEA, especially in developing countries where natural gas consumption was expected to increase, at least in the medium term, as a substitute for coal.
And the Danish authorities, still talking about energy, they're saying that the leaking at Nord Stream 1 is over. What's the update?
Indeed, the Danish Energy Agency says that the operator of the underwater Nord Stream 1 pipeline confirmed that the pressure in the pipeline has stabilized. That after the Danish authorities announced on Saturday that gas had stopped leaking from the underwater Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Now, since the early hours of Monday last week, a total of 4 leaks had been detected in the pipelines, which carried Russian gas to Europe until they were shut down in recent months. Many European states assume sabotage was behind the leaks. As to how to proceed with the matter, well, Russia's deputy prime minister says that it was technically possible to restore the ruptured infrastructure, but as Europe is trying to wean itself off Russian energy deliveries, there is no real desire among EU officials for such a step, one that would also go squarely against the united front the bloc has been trying to form against the Kremlin's aggression. Also, the existence of the Nord Stream pipelines has been a bone of contention between Europe and the United States, with Washington claiming the pipelines were the most prominent and most problematic examples of Europe's dangerous energy dependence on Russia. So now that the pipelines are empty, I don't think anything is going to happen to them at all in the coming months. However, dealing with soaring energy prices will top the meeting of the EU leaders at the end of the week in the Czech capital, Prague.
Yeah, and even though it's a national holiday, the stock exchange is not on holiday. So how's the market faring?
Well, September was bad, and October isn't starting much better. German stocks are declining on this first trading day of the month. Markets in Germany taking their cue from pre-weekend losses on Wall Street. The DAX losing around 1.5% in the early hours of today's trading session, falling below the threshold of 12,000 points this morning. Investors will be eyeing the mood among purchasing managers in the EU and the United States later today. So far, though, the mood is rather somber, in line with what has been the dominating sentiment in recent weeks. Germany's blue chips index shed more than 5% in September, and since the start of the year, the DAX lost around 25%.
All right, Chris, thank you so much. And once again, happy Unity Day. So let's move to the United Kingdom now. And of course, we have Juliana standing by, joining us to give us update. And it seems like a bit of good news this afternoon. Juliana, good afternoon. I heard you say Happy Independence Day to Laddie in the morning. Well, it's my turn now. Happy Independence Day, Juliana.
Happy Independence to you, Inni, and to our millions of Nigerians watching from across the world.
Sure, and it seems like
get better.
Yeah, it seems like it's a good one for you guys because the pound rallied today after that announcement that the government is going to abolish the tax cuts. So I guess we should just look at the markets and see what's going on there.
Yes, let's look straight at the numbers, shall we? The FTSE All-Share currently down 0.60%. The FTSE 100, though, down by 0.61%. And the FTSE 250, that domestic market, down by 0.60%. Where it gets interesting, of course, is in the currencies market, which everyone's been watching very closely over the past 10 days. The British pound is finally, currently, up on the US dollar by 0.48%. So at this moment, £1 is worth just over $1.11. The British pound is also up on the euro by 0.78% and up on the Japanese yen by 0.62%. So let's rewind back to about 7:25 a.m. We got that bombshell tweet. It's always happening on Twitter. Well, very much so in the UK when it comes to this Conservative Party. They are in Birmingham for their annual conference. Very, very tense in Birmingham at the moment. Not that kind of resounding atmosphere that we had in Liverpool for the Labour Party conference last week. But Conservative MPs, both backbenchers and serious senior MPs, said they were just not happy with this 45p tax rate abolition. And then Kwasi Kwarteng, the Chancellor, did a pretty devastating U-turn, saying that he gets it, he listened, it wasn't the right thing to do, we are going to axe it. One of the reasons why they decided to do it is because of this revolt, but then also the market turmoil. But there is just so much more to do, because 10 days ago, when the Chancellor, read out the explosive mini budget, the 45p tax rate abolition was only one of a series of dramatic new proposals, new fiscal policy proposals. So at least one has been done. Many more may still come. The markets are still very anxious at the moment. Again, not a great look. Lots of people on television in the UK now saying they're basically waiting for the Chancellor to resign any single moment. He says he's not going to, but 24 hours is a very long time in politics, Innie, so we'll just have to wait and see. But if you are a Conservative, then you would say that, a U-turn is seen as a good thing because you are listening to the people. But the fact that Liz Truss has only been in government for less than a month and she's already U-turning is not great in terms of optics.
Yeah, not great at all. Not great for the team, the Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng. But I think another thing is also that the factory downturn is still continuing. I think the U-turn hasn't affected that.
No, it's not. Again, I was listening to what you were having a discussion about in Berlin. This is the season for purchasing managers' index data we've seen in France and Spain and Italy. It's all really happening everywhere across Europe. And today, Britain is not an outlier. They're also displaying slowdowns in factory output. We have had the manufacturing services data today showing that in September it did go up slightly to 48.4 from 47.3 in August, bearing in mind that 50 is the benchmark. So any activity below 50 does show that sector is shrinking. So slightly up, but still very much down. And it's pretty much the same thing. There is just so much global economic turmoil at the moment. Orders are down, and therefore, they're just not producing as many items as they should. And of course, these supplies do cost a lot of money, and inflation is at double digits at the moment. So not great. That's one of the reasons why the FTSE is down. And I think it's kind of showing that September there may have been a contraction in the economy, even though it was revised. And we know that GDP in the second quarter in this country was up. I think that looming recession could be well on its way in this country, Innie.
Yeah, unfortunately, Juliana. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Talk to you then.
All right, so let's move over to Asia and look at the market. Their shares in the Asia Pacific were mixed on Monday's market as it entered the last quarter of the year. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index, look at the numbers there. Let's start with the Nikkei 225 is up more than 1%. The Shanghai is down more than 0.5%, while the Hang Seng Index is positive, almost 1%, a good one for the market at this time. And looking at the other ones now, we see that according to revenues in Australia, the S&P AX 200 gave up those early gains and closed 0.27% lower at the close of trade. Today, we move to the United States now. See what's going on there. Dow Jones Industrial Average Futures ticked higher on Monday as Wall Street tried to start the new month and quarter on a solid note. Dow Jones Future traded. There we have the number. I see not recovering so much. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was down almost 2%. S&P 500 down more than 1.5%. Nasdaq also down more than a bloodbath in the U.S. market. There, I think we're waiting some job data and see how the markets will react to that after the Federal Reserve, of course, did their thing last week. Going to the global oil space now, prices jumped by more than $3 on Monday as OPEC Plus considers reducing output by more than 1 million barrels a day to buttress prices with what would be its biggest cut since the start of COVID-19 pandemic. Brent crude futures rebounded by $3.37 to $88.51 a barrel. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude was up 4.1% at $82.78 a barrel. Oil prices have tumbled for 4 straight months since June as COVID-19 lockdowns in top energy consumer China hurt demand, while rising interest rates and a surging U.S. dollar weighed on global financial markets. Let's see what's going on in the metals market now. Gold prices edged higher on Monday, although the gains were capped on fears of aggressive rate hikes by the United States Federal Reserve. Spot gold was up 0.3% at $1,664.50 per ounce. U.S. gold futures were steady at $1,673.20, while the dollar steadied against its rivals. Prices of bullion fell more than 8% in the July-September quarter, marking its worst quarterly performance since the end of March 2021. Let's take a break now. When we come back, we'll head to the African continent, of course, starting with Nigeria. As Nigeria is there around the world, we'll also see some other countries that share 1960 with Nigeria. Do stay with us. This is Business Incorporated on Channels Television. All right, so now Nigeria is celebrating its 62nd independence. And of course, the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, they've been doing a look at some of the new trends in the economy as the country celebrates its 62 years of independence. The LCCI observes that the economy has significantly transformed from a largely independent agrarian economy to a net importer of finished goods. Not a good development. The economy is now financed mainly by oil revenue, which has exposed the economy to effects of external shocks. The economic growth trend, measured by gross domestic product performance, has generally been positive over the last 2 decades, except for the recent challenges posed by debt crisis, inflation risks, insecurity, and forex liquidity. There's an urgent need, according to the LCCI, to address the weak government revenue base caused by oil theft and pipeline vandalism, rising and unsustainable debt profile, overdependence on oil revenue, exposure to foreign shocks through inadequate forex supply, and of course, double-digit inflation, which is becoming really common these days. Well, there are other countries that also share 1960 with Nigeria. And so we look at some of those countries. The year 1960, which is, of course, the year that Nigeria got its independence. There were some other countries. And that's why that year, 1960, has been referred to as the year of Africa because of the serious events that took place there. It was significant because no less than 17 African countries highlighted the growing Pan-African sentiments in the continent. Nigeria's Tribune reported that between January and December 1960, 17 African countries, 14 of which were French colonies, gained their independence. So, do you want to know some of those countries? Well, I guess you already know. Well, they include Cameroon, Togo, Madagascar, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Somalia, Benin, Niger, Burkina Faso, Ivory Coast, Chad, the Central African Republic, and a whole lot more. So that's why the year 1960 is being referred to as the year of Africa. And just before we leave all of that now, the Nigerian equities markets lost 1.48 trillion naira in the third quarter. As you would know, we have started the fourth quarter as investor sentiment toward the market continued to diminish on interest rate hikes. During the period, the Monetary Policy Committee, the MPC of the Central Bank, voted to increase the monetary policy rate by 150 basis points to 15.5%, the third consecutive rate hike and highest since the MPC replaced the minimum rediscount rate with MPR in 2006. In addition, the committee also voted to increase the cash reserve requirement to a minimum of 32.5% while retaining the asymmetric corridor around the MPR and liquidity ratio at 100 plus 100 basis points and 700 basis points, and a 30% respectively. Well, let's leave Nigeria, shall we? We've been on it for a while. So let's go to South Africa. And what's happening there is that food prices have continued to surge, and that's despite lower fuel and global commodity food prices. And that's according to the latest Household Affordability Index by the Peter Maritzburg Economic Justice and Dignitary Group. For September, the group's basket of nutritional foods came to 4,805 rand. Month on month, the average cost of the basket increased by 30 rand and 28 cents from 4,775 rand in August 2022. While the year on year, the basket increased by 586 rand and 39 cents from 4,219 rand in September 2021. Staying in South Africa now, jet fuel is not coming easy in that country. Airports company South Africa, ACSA, has announced in a statement that Cape Town International Airport is experiencing further delays in receiving jet fuel, and that's because of slowed delivery times from its supplier. U.S. giant United Airlines has cancelled its flights from New York to Cape Town, as well as the return flights on Tuesday because the airline can't get fuel at Cape Town International Airport. ACSA says it will continue to work with airlines to limit the impacts on flight operations, which includes reducing passenger loads, and it requests passengers to continuously monitor developments around the issue. And Africa's first verifiable emissions reduction platform, which uses a public decentralized ledger to track emissions reductions, will start trading its first tokens this quarter. The platform, known as CYNK, will use the Hedera Hashgraph ledger and trade tokens generated by Tamua, Kenya's largest biomass company. It's also in talks to trade emissions reductions credit from a company that plans to practice regenerative agriculture on 50,000 hectares of land in the East African country, and a blue carbon project. Regenerative agriculture refers to farming practices that help store carbon, while blue carbon is stored by ocean and coastal systems that would otherwise be released into the atmosphere. Emissions reductions credits are a way for companies and projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions that would have otherwise occurred through their business or environmental practices to generate more income. The credits, which are often bought by polluters to offset their own activities, have attracted criticism as they allow those firms to keep generating climate-warming gases. That's it on this holiday for Nigerians, at least on Business Incorporated. We'll do it again tomorrow. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Enjoy the rest of your holiday.